Hey, it's not time for our next assignment already, is it? I'm just finishing cleaning up after a Nancy's visit. You wouldn't believe how difficult trickster cobwebs are to clean up. Oh, here it is, our next assignment from the Institute. Huh. Oh, wow. Looks like this is going to be extra tricky. Apparently, the Institute is having a hard time figuring out this next trickster. Sometimes he plays tricks like Loki and Anansi. Sometimes he plays the role of a mediator. And sometimes he plays the role of a buffoon, getting tricks played on him. The Institute wants us to figure out when this trickster plays each of these roles, what the significance is of these roles, and how they reflect Lakota values. Oh, here it is. The name of this trickster character is Iktómi the Spider Fairy. Well, I guess I'll keep my broom handy. But first, let's head to the land of the Lakota tribe to meet this tricky fella. Welcome to South Dakota. The Lakota people originally lived along the Mississippi River, but moved here to the Great Plains as Europeans expanded west in the 1800s. They adapted to life on the plains, becoming expert hunters and warriors. Lakota culture emphasizes the importance of community over the individual. Traits such as respect, generosity, and wisdom are therefore highly valued. Lakota stories, while meant to entertain, were also intended to teach these values and pass them on to younger generations. The central figure in many of these stories is Iktómi, a trickster who can take the form of a man or a spider. However, in most tales, his spider form is more symbolic, representing his trickster nature rather than a literal physical transformation. Well, that's good news. In addition to this shape-shifting, Iktómi plays different roles in these stories, as a trickster, a mediator, or a buffoon. This makes Iktómi tales particularly exciting, since the audience has no idea what part Iktómi is going to play as each story begins. As we figure out which role Iktómi plays in the following tales, we'll uncover Iktómi's purpose in Lakota mythology. Looks like the Institute wants us to start with the classic Lakota tale, Iktómi and the Ducks. Let's see what we can uncover. One day, Iktómi sat hungry inside his teepee. There was no food, and no one would help him since he was always playing tricks. Suddenly, he rushed out and started walking until he came across a flock of ducks that would make the perfect meal. He offered to sing them his songs and instructed them to close their eyes and dance in a circle while he sang. After dancing for a while, one duck decided to open his eyes and was horrified to see that a few of his friends lay dead in a pile next to Iktómi, who had been wringing their necks one by one. Crying out, he and the rest of his friends escaped so that Iktómi only captured a few ducks. How does Iktómi's behavior define him as a trickster character? Pause the video here to write down your thoughts. Yes, Iktómi uses cunning and deception to capture the ducks, rather than hunt them like a traditional warrior would. He takes a shortcut and ends up with less for his efforts as a result. That makes Iktómi a trickster in this myth, because tricksters use mischief and cunning to cause trouble. Iktómi doesn't follow the wisest path here, and it sure leads to some negative consequences. What's interesting about trickster tales is that they often reveal values based on what the trickster did wrong. What does this cruel trick and Iktómi's failure to capture all the ducks tell us about Lakota values? Iktómi's betrayal of the ducks reveals a deep lack of respect for these creatures. Because of this, his plan to capture all of the ducks fails. This trickster tale demonstrates the importance of respect and community by showing what happens when these values aren't followed. Community and respect for all life, including animals, is central to Lakota values. I wonder how this trickster could possibly play the role of a mediator, and I can't wait to see how he might end up as the buffoon, getting tricks played on him. Looks like our next tale is The Bound Children. Let's see how Iktómi is going to change things up. Our tale begins when a widow abandons her two young children in order to marry the son of the chief. Feeling betrayed, the widow's daughter confronts her mother at the wedding feast, and the mother is transformed into a hideous old woman. The chief, furious at the girl's actions, orders the children to be tied up and abandoned by the village. But, with help from an old woman, the two siblings are able to free themselves. Eventually, they grow up and become wealthy. One day, a raven brings them a puzzling message. They ask Iktómi what it means, and after a gift of food, he tells them that their mother and the rest of the villagers are starving. The siblings send back food with the raven, who delivers another cryptic message to the villagers. The villagers also summon Iktómi to interpret the message, and are amazed to hear that the bound children from so many years ago have saved them. The villagers follow him to where the siblings live, reuniting these once estranged groups. So, how would you describe Iktómi's behavior in this tale? Iktómi's main purpose here is to help out by facilitating the reunion of the siblings with their village. That makes Iktómi the mediator, a role defined by intervening in disputes and guiding others toward a resolution in the midst of conflict. So, what values does this version of Iktómi demonstrate? Iktómi's role in reuniting these factions of the village highlights the importance of community that is at the heart of Lakota culture. This theme is reinforced even further by the radical generosity of the siblings after their terrible treatment by the villagers. You're doing so great. Looks like the Institute has one final story for us to look at. It's called Iktómi and the Coyote, a crossover story that features a trickster character popular in many Native American cultures. Let's listen in. Iktómi was walking along one day when he spotted a coyote seemingly dead on the prairie and decided to carry it home to eat. As Iktómi struggled with the heavy corpse, the coyote, who was very much alive, enjoyed the ride, silently amused. Once they reached Iktómi's dwelling, Iktómi built a fire to cook the coyote. However, as Iktómi prepared to throw the coyote into the flames, the coyote leapt out, scattering hot embers onto Iktómi and surprising him. The coyote then mocked Iktómi for his foolishness, advising him to make sure his prey is truly dead. Coyote then ran away, leaving Iktómi bewildered and burned. So what do you notice about Iktómi's behavior in this myth? While it might seem like Iktómi is going to be the trickster in this tale, his overconfidence leads to Coyote tricking him in the end. This makes Iktómi the buffoon, a foolish character whose poor choices lead to their downfall. This is a role that Iktómi plays a lot in Lakota tales. Why do you think this role exists? What values are demonstrated by Iktómi as the trickster who gets tricked? Iktómi's downfall in this tale results from a lack of wisdom and a lack of respect, especially concerning Lakota hunting practices. Young hunters would hear this as a cautionary tale, encouraging them to ensure that their quarry is truly dead. This tale discourages arrogance and overconfidence, traits that might work for a trickster but which spell disaster for a community-focused culture like the Lakotas. These three tales demonstrate the possibilities of the trickster character while reflecting many important values of the Lakota people. Whether he's entertaining with his tricks, making us laugh with his successes or his utter failures, or serving as a mediator in the midst of conflict, Iktómi and tricksters like him impart wisdom that goes beyond mere entertainment. Through their cunning, they teach lessons about humility, the importance of wit, the consequences of greed, and the value of community. Iktómi's actions, though often foolish or self-serving, ultimately serve to highlight the moral fabric of the Lakota culture. By observing his misadventures, listeners are reminded of the boundaries of acceptable behavior and the virtues of honesty, respect, and harmony with nature. In this way, the tales of Iktómi not only amuse but also reinforce the ethical teachings that are central to the Lakota way of life. Look, the next piece of the codex! The Institute will be so relieved that we cracked the Iktómi code. Be sure to check out your lesson materials to explore these myths further. Good luck out there, and remember to be legendary!
Hey, hey!